Yeah, nice one. Let's go. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another week here at the RGM Experience podcast with me, Carl Maloney. The podcast where we delve into the music industry, really, and find interesting people to speak about within it. And today, ladies and gentlemen, a guest that needs no introduction, Chris Helme. Hi, mate. How you doing?
I'm all right, thanks. Cheers. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. Very well.
Yeah, good. Thanks for joining us. I'm glad you're well now because we had you booked on the podcast a bit ago, but you had an accident on some ice or something, didn't you, mate?
Yeah, I'd been out with Alan Leach and Joe Johnson from Shed 7. Well, they've left Shed 7. It was just before Christmas. We met up in the pub, and it was that one weekend where it was really icy.
Yeah.
And I ended up just slipping on some ice and just fell flat on my back. And when you think you can get up, but I was like, I just literally couldn't get up. And then Joe was trying to pull me up and I was in agonizing pain and all the rest of it. I ended up in hospital in the end. And it turns out I broke like 4 ribs in my back. So I had to cancel a few gigs, which was annoying. But yeah, I mean, thankfully, Nigel Clark from Dodgy, he managed to cover a couple of them. So that was all right. But yeah, it was annoying. It's not nice having broken ribs, I have to say. Obviously, if there's people out there that's ever experienced it, they'll know exactly what I mean.
It is, isn't it? I can remember playing rugby once at school and I dived rugby ball.
And you were asking for it.
Yeah, it's completely my fault. There were no booze involved though, as well. Just one of those.
Well, yeah. By my normal standards, I wasn't that drunk, to be fair. So I was quite disappointed.
Fair enough.
Would have dulled the pain somewhat if I was a bit drunk.
Fair enough. Well, thanks for joining us today, mate. It's the holy grail to have a career in music, and you've been there, done it, seen it, wore the t-shirt. You've got this amazing new album out. So thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Where do we find you today, then, mate? Where's home?
I'm in York. Yeah, and this is my cat Barney.
Oh, hello, Barney.
Yeah, it's just relaxing on the bed.
It's time.
Yeah, I'm in York. Lived here on and off pretty much most of my life, really.
Yeah.
So it's a nice place to live.
It's a beautiful place. I love York. This new album's coming out. I have had the privilege of having a sneak peek of the new album that's coming out that we're going to come to in a bit, mate. So music's still in you, mate. It's never going to leave you, is it?
No, it's not. I'm not very good at anything else. So fortunately, and it hasn't left me yet. I'm a very unhappy person when I'm not playing music.
Yeah,
I've given it a go at kind of doing other things.
Yeah.
Because you do it all the time, you do music all the time. And, when you find yourself watching Netflix rather than listening to other people's music, you're realizing that maybe you've been doing a bit too much music. So I'm kind of like I've got my head around it a bit more now. I've got my own little studio and I've been writing quite a lot, been doing a lot of writing with Nigel from Dodgy as well. So that's been a lot of fun. So hopefully we'll be doing something next year. But yeah, I mean, you're always getting new ideas and you're always getting, it's sort of like, it's almost like this self-improvement thing where you can go on YouTube now and pretty much learn how to do anything in any style, so there's not really any excuse for kind of not being massively creative, unless you want to paint yourself into a little cul-de-sac like some bands do, and they just never seem to sound any different from, still trying to recreate what they were doing years ago.
Is the process any different now to when you started off? Back in the early days, is the creative process different for you?
Yeah, massively.
Try and be different.
I think before I didn't used to keep a diary or anything like that. And back in my day, pre-millennial, we weren't really taught how to process our feelings and emotions and things like that. So I'd be sitting there and pretty pissed off about things, and I'd end up writing and ranting about a situation just to get it square in my head.
Yeah.
And then, then I'd write the music around that, and kind of like beat it into shape. So trying to crowbar kind of like sentences into a short space of time. Whereas now, I go away for like, I don't know, a couple of weeks, go to a cottage or somewhere where it's, in the middle of nowhere. And then me and the band will just sit and knock out a load of music, and I'll have all the chords written out and stuff like that, and just sort of play it out. And I don't like to tell people what to play, so There's a reason why I have a drummer is because I can't play drums. There's a reason why I have a double bass player or a bass player is because I can't play bass. Lead guitar, same thing.
Yeah.
But keyboards and stuff as well. And it's like, and I get all these people and they're all my friends and we sit down and we just knock it out. And then what happens is when it actually starts to become something quite special and you've got it all, for lack of a better word, but it's a bit of a cheesy word, vibe, when you've got that vibe going on, it starts to paint pictures in your head, and then you know where you're going with the song and what needs to be said over it. And then a lot of subconscious stuff comes out when you do that. So you end up being quite surprised yourself by what comes out at the end. It's not kind of this contrived idea. It's more of a sort of subliminal thing, really.
Yeah. What's the quality control like?
Ridiculous.
Is it still the same as?
It's the most
is it
self-defeating?
Yeah,
self-defeating.
okay.
Oh God.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I'm talking to my mate about this yesterday, and it's almost like there's this voice in your head that's telling you that it ain't good enough. Try again, do it again, try harder. A lot of the time, it's kind of like Charles Bukowski thing. It's like you get a lot further when you don't try. Actually, it just seems to be if you do it naturally. But the quality thing is you end up with like 30 songs and you'll choose 10 of them. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that the other, 20 are crap. It's just that they just don't fit together for that body of work, for an album. So it's like, for instance, every time I do an album, there's always a couple of like glam rock songs in there. And and eventually I'll end up with enough glam rock songs to have an album of it. But it's going to take a long time. I'll probably be about 70 by the time that happens. But yeah.
I'm looking forward to the glam rock album when you're 70, Chris.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah. You can write any old crap for glam rock, and it doesn't have to make any sense at all. Just catchy choruses and you clap your hands to it.
Are you the same with like the mix as well? Like making sure the hi-hats fucking perfect and that kind of stuff. Do you get involved with either side?
Yeah. Well, I work with a guy called Dave Boothroyd. And he's a brilliant engineer. I've known him for a very long time. And he offered to sort of help me do this because I was going to do the mixes myself, but that was a bit of a steep learning curve for me, which would have meant the album would never have been finished. And I think it's a dangerous thing to sort of be that kind of close to it. Yeah. So it's nice to have someone there making those decisions, and then if you agree with them or not, and if you don't, then he's quite adaptable to changing it. And yeah, I learned a lot from working with him, and I am really picky about stuff, but it's only because it's my own sort of, I'll have a great day one day doing a mix, and then I'll come home and then I'll come back in the next day and I'll absolutely hate it. And it's a frame of mind thing.
Yeah.
So, and that all just comes from probably being too hard on myself because I'm maybe a lack of confidence, maybe in some respects, but in other ways, it's just it's not actually quite right. Sometimes, most of the time, that's it really. But you're always listening for faults all the time, and it's not pleasant when you sort of doing music like that. But you can get perfection paralysis, which means you'll never do anything. Just going round and round in circles, just fiddling all the time, and it just doesn't. Yeah, it just doesn't get you anywhere. And so you've got to draw a line at some point. And I'm really pleased with this album. I'm loving how it sounds. It sounds how I wanted it to sound. But then with Dave adding the magic to it, it sounds even better than I imagined. So I never thought I'd ever say that about anything. So he's done a cracking job.
Just hanging around the new album for a little bit. Just the intro to it has got so much going on. In so many different styles. I got like a bit a retro noir kind of vibe from the first song, the introduction to the album, and then obviously your amazing voice kicks in. There's guitar riffs, there's an orchestra off in there, that kind of stuff, and there's country vibes in the album as well. There's loads of different.
I like a load of different music. Yeah. I mean, it's taken a long time to get this finished.
Yeah,
for one reason or another, and a lot of it was just me. It's just me being me, putting the brakes on things. But throughout that period, there's my taste in music changed. So I think at the very beginning, I was listening to things like Calexico or the Sadies and bands like that, which are they play a lot of that kind of Ennio Morricone inspired sort of Tex-Mex stuff. So that song, first single, it's called Too Bad, but that was called Babbage Beatles Burrito.
Okay, fair enough.
I still can't even remember why. I think it was just as a reference point to kind of make me think where I kind of got the idea from. But yeah, so I mean, it started off like that, but you've got all these other things. I was learning different sort of guitar picking styles and things like that, and I was listening to Phil Everly's first solo album. There's stuff off that. There's just all sorts of different things, and I like so many kinds of music. I think the thing about being in the Seahorses was that you're in an indie band, and you see all these. We used to call them Liam Browns. They're these lads who just look like a cross between Liam Gallagher and Ian Brown. And they all dress like they dress and everything, and it's and I get it. It's a thing. It's like being a mod, but you're kind of limiting yourself to other experiences and other music. It's just like you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that, you can't wear this, you can't wear that. So many rules. It's kind of fascist in a way, but then the whole mod movement did come from Italy, so what can you say? But it's I think that I'm a little bit more free than that.
Yeah,
I like bands like Blur, for instance, because that and Pulp and Supergrass, because they're not confined to any specific sort of genre. I know people will say that the word Britpop or the word this, that, and the other, but they've gone far beyond that. They haven't had, they're not frightened to experiment. And David Bowie as well, the same. He's like, I think he was quite famous for saying, "Don't ever play to the gallery." And if you want to enjoy yourself as a creative person, then it's damn right, I think I can get away with it. I don't have any management or a record company breathing down my neck telling me that I should be writing more songs that sounded like me 20 years ago, and it's like, fuck that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. So I mean, some people will probably be challenged, they'll be like, oh, but it doesn't sound like the Seahorses. But then I was in a band called the Yards after the Seahorses split up, and then we were together for 7 years. We released 3 albums, and again we were all into different stuff, and it's so liberating to do that. And you can release your own music now anyway, and make enough of a living to continue to be as free spirited as you want, really. I mean, at the end of the day, people have got to kind of like it enough to buy it, but I think I think I'm very happy where I am. Actually, it's a good place to be.
Yeah. Do you prefer it than having that machine around you?
I hated the machine with a passion.
Yeah.
And when it ever approaches, I get very anxious about it, and it's almost defensive, and I just don't want it anywhere near me. There's a lot of people to employ within that kind of industry, that don't necessarily, for me, don't need to be there. So to me, it's kind of like I end up working like 10 times as hard for the same amount of money. It just seems daft.
Yeah. I mean, like, what specific parts of the machine really put you off that?
People.
Dicks.
I told you I'm trying to be diplomatic here. It's exhausting. It's exhausting trying to be diplomatic. No, it's just all sorts. So the thing is that the whole business model's changed now. Right. So back in the day, you'd sell loads of records, which would, basically they'd invest a load of money in you. They would put a load of money into PR and all of that, and then send you around the world, and you do loads of interviews. And it was pre-internet pretty much, really, when I was doing the Seahorses stuff. So you're doing a lot of traveling around. When you're not gigging and you're not rehearsing, you're doing press. And it all made sense because that would all end up creating money, which would then, you'd spend a lot of money and then you'd sell a lot of records and get the money back. That was the idea. With it now, it's like the whole thing's completely changed. It's more about streaming now than anything. The physical products that you'll sell will be at gigs, so it's kind of like there's only me to feed really at the end, so
Yeah.
it's kind of, I don't have a crew or anything like that. I'm very much completely independent. And it's not like by design. I've just seem to have arrived at this point.
Yeah.
A lot of bands out there, they're touring all the time because, there's no money in Spotify.
Yeah.
So this is what we have to do. And I hope it don't get to a point where the only people who can afford to make music in the first place are these kind of trust fund kids that, are straight out of Eton or whatever, and they haven't really got any proper life experience.
Well,
So,
it ruined politics, didn't it? Those type of people.
it ruins everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, shit people, that's it. So yeah, quick answer to your question. What didn't I like about the industry is people.
Yeah.
Shit people.
Shit people, cheap people. Well, just rewind it a little bit and zooming out a little bit. What was the process like for you before Seahorses and that kind of stuff? How did you physically like get into music yourself and realize you've got this fucking voice, this amazing voice, and a talent for music?
I didn't even know I had it. I thought everyone could sing. So it was like, I used to sing in the bath.
Yeah.
And, I remember when my sister was at uni, she was a big Prince fan. And she'd left all her records at our house. So I remember getting Around the World in a Day, which is this gatefold like album. And I remember all the lyrics were on the inside. So I'd kind of put it as close to my head as possible and sing loud and think that no one could hear me.
Okay.
And I was there reading all the lyrics and stuff. And I realized that I could probably sing quite a lot. I mean, Prince isn't very easy to sing.
Yeah.
I won't be able to do it now. Smoke too many fags, but it kind of just thought that's what you did. I didn't think anyone else could. I just thought people just couldn't be asked to do it. And then there's one time I was singing in a bath somewhere. It's in a shared house when I was probably about 19, 20 maybe. And this lad, Andy Parrish, he could hear me, and he was staying in the house, and he asked me to join a band with him. So I did. We wrote our first song because I couldn't really remember the words for anyone else's, so we had a go at just doing something off our own back.
And what was the band name?
We started off with Genuine Moon Material, which was dreadful. Then it became Daisy Space, which is even more dreadful.
Yeah.
And then it was Chutzpah, or Chutzpah if you want to phonetically pronounce it, which means shameless audacity, apparently in Hebrew, I think. And nobody was Jewish or anything in our band. It was, but we ended up just having this wonderful experience traveling around France, and we didn't really know what we were doing, but we had I can remember more about that one summer going around France than I can about pretty much any other stage of my life, really.
So you got out on the road and you went international?
We went all over France and slept on beaches and just slept in graveyards and churchyards and stuff, and it was awesome. But you could do that back then. If you imagine, there was a lot of free festivals around as well. There was a lot of the police were a little bit frisky in France, but not as bad as they are now. You won't be able to do it now. You get arrested for some, I don't know, terrorism or something. But we used to just go and play the bars, just move around from one bar to the next and annoy all the all the punters in the bars until they gave us enough money for us to go away. But yeah, it was a good experience. And then I was busking for a bit, and like after France, moved back to York to continue doing some busking. And I just realised that it was so much nicer in France than it was in York anyway. So I moved back. I moved down to Brighton, and the band that I was in, Chutzpah, we split up. And then I moved to Brighton with my girlfriend, and I tried to do a bit of busking down there, but the kind of music scene had changed. It was more, I think the levelers were from Brighton, so if you'd given it like maybe 2 years earlier, you would have been able to make quite a decent living busking. But it was more DJs and kind of you know, smackheads basically on the streets of Brighton. So it wasn't really quite what I expected. So I threw my time into writing songs, which I'd kind of been doing anyway, but not on my own. I was always writing them for the band I was in. So started writing pretty much about my experiences in France and people, and you know, and that's where Blinded by the Sun came out. Plus, Moving On came out then as well. There's a lot of
So
yeah.
is that when Seahorses were created then around that time?
No,
No,
I didn't even
oh,
know.
before.
I was there in Brighton for about 6 months.
Right.
I went there in probably September and came back in January, I think. And then I kind of got a few. I think I had about 3 jobs, and I was busking as well.
I'm going to ask, have you ever had a real job, or you just been creative all your life?
Oh, I've had real jobs.
Yeah.
I wanted. Well, I went to art college straight after school, so I moved to Scarborough when I was 16.
Mm.
And then after I finished that, I did graphic design, and then I worked in a pottery doing all sorts of bits and bobs there. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was really young. I moved to Whitby, and then I was there for probably about 9 months, I think, and then moved back to York. Worked at a printer's as a designer there, plate maker back in the day, and then. But music was always there. It was always playing in the background. You know, I've worked in bars. I've had lots of jobs, but yeah, I mean, character building stuff, I guess.
Yeah, well,
It's weird.
it sounds like you've lived all over the place. Did that help you? I don't know, come up with ideas or just?
It
Um,
does a bit, you know. I mean, you get to know certain types of people and stuff. I know
yeah.
it's not the done thing to sort of pigeonhole people into certain categories, but you know, I guess I don't know. I mean, I've always written about how I feel about things. Yeah, I never really thought about it now until you ask. I mean, I've written hundreds of songs, and they're probably all about the inner workings of my mind and how I feel about things. But yeah, so yeah, I ended up coming back to York, and then was busking one day. A guy called Dennis walked past me, who was a mate of Martin Herbert, who's John Squire's guitar tech.
Yeah.
And he saw me busking, and he said initially that I had the right haircut.
Right. Okay.
And then he was like, and I really like your songs, and so get me a tape, and put a photo in it, and I'll send it to this guy. He's just left this really big band.
Mm.
And I was like, is it John Squire? And he was like, how the fuck did you know that? And I was like, well, I know he's been in York, and I know he's asked Stuart Fletcher to play in a band with him, so it kind of makes sense. He's the only person that I know that's left a big band. Sorry, I didn't know John. Yeah. And then I gave him the tape in the end, and then he sent it to John. And he got to the top of the queue because it was handed straight to him. I think John had put an advert out in like the NME and other magazines advertising for band members, and I wasn't aware of that. So I suppose if I'd not gone out that day busking and that guy didn't walk past me, then you wouldn't be talking to me now. Yeah. Wow. I'd probably be doing graphic design or working in a bar or something. Or who knows what I'd be doing.
So we literally just plucked from your little busking world into this. Into the machine.
The record company wanted to make a bit of a deal of it. They wanted to kind of say that it was John that walked past and stuff like that, which I had a massive problem with. And I told them, don't say that because it's bullshit. Yeah. Everyone knows it's bullshit because all the people in York know what the story is. And but they went and said it anyway. But that's an example of shit people.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
But I'm always at the mercy of that. With basically you're a number on a spreadsheet at the end of the day. And wow. I think John did some artwork recently, during COVID, where there was the what do you call those little QR codes, and he'd done his own QR code and he'd written into it kind of little sentence, and it took you quite a while to figure out what it said, but it says, "You are the commodity." and I thought that was genius. It's a very clever take on. I don't know what he meant personally for him, but I totally understood it for what it feels like to me. And it's basically, it doesn't matter how big or successful you are, you're always kind of got to answer to someone, I suppose. There's always someone who's trying to make money out of you.
Yeah.
But that's maybe the tight Yorkshireman in me that I'm thinking that.
Well, I'm a Yorkshireman myself. I agree with all of that. We are where we are with that, aren't we? But so, like, because when you met up with the lads for the first time, and John was there, and I don't know, you started creating music. You built this relationship to start this new band thing. John Squire as a character stands out to be like it feels like from the outside that he doesn't like the machine, he doesn't like the bullshit around him, and particularly when he were on Jonathan Ross overnight, when he just weren't playing the game, he were just giving him quick answer, just being himself. It wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to speak to him about it, but
yeah,
it does appear that way. I mean, I think with John there's a huge level of expectation. He'd done one of the best albums in existence, with the Stone Roses first, and then he did the Second Coming. And there was kind of he'd been built up into this thing that this guitar got, and I'm not sure if it sat well with him really. I don't really know. He never really spoke about it, but that's a lot of pressure to put on someone. And you've got to maintain that kind of idea, which can be very limiting, I think. I don't know. I mean, I feel uncomfortable speaking about it because it's him, and he'd answer it better.
Yeah.
I've got my feelings about it, and but yeah, it's I mean, I don't think he probably wasn't really happy with the amount of the lack of control that he had over people loving it as much as they do. So it's crap when you can't go for a pint, buy a pint of milk, and people are trying to ask you for your autograph all the time. It doesn't happen to me anymore, thank God, but I'm sure it happens to him quite a lot. That in itself can be quite draining. But I remember we supported the Rolling Stones a couple of times, about 4 times, I think it was now. And I met Charlie Watts in the toilet. I bumped into him in the bogs, and he wasn't expecting to see anyone, so I nearly gave him a heart attack. And he went there with his security detail. And I was like, "How are you doing, Charlie? All right?" And he's going, "Who the fuck are you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm Chris. I'm in the support band." "We've got a support band." I was like, "Yeah, all right, never mind." Anyway, shook his hand, and that was that. But it made me think. These guys have not had any. I've said this in other interviews as well, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself. But it's like they've not had a normal life since they were 19. And I love music and I love playing, but I'm not sure I could sacrifice my entire life for it, for fame and fortune. It just, then that whole thing becomes a big responsibility. You have to employ so many people, and it's like, you become this corporation that's employing hundreds, if not over 1,000 people. And that's all because someone's played 3 chords and sang a few notes over it. So it's resonated with people. It's insane. I don't know. I'm waffling on a bit here, but
it's okay. Did you realize that Do It Yourself, the Seahorses album, that for me personally was a sound check of my adolescent life, growing up and going out to pubs and starting to go and watch bands and that kind of stuff? How do you look back on that part of your life now, and that album, that iconic album? How do you reflect on that now, looking back on it?
Well, back at the time, I knew there was going to be a level of expectation with it because of John's past. And because of that, I was catapulted a lot higher and further than I was comfortable with very quickly.
Yeah.
And I wasn't kind of educated in how to deal with that at any point. Yeah. So I had to basically put the blinkers on and then just put one foot in front of the other and just try not to be shit, I suppose, and just crack on with it. But then there's so many distractions. So really, I can't really say what it was like. Really, I couldn't. My memories of it are probably the reason why I can remember more of my experiences in Chutzpah in the
Mm.
you know in when we were in France is because my eyes were wide open and I was kind of there just enjoying everything and it was all easy. Whereas in the Seahorses, I was like almost like that the shutters down and I was just like just keep going and keep going and keep going. It was very stressful. There was time I enjoyed it, but it was a lot different to what people actually thought. But I think a lot of people probably thought I was really loving it all the time, and I'd have to, if I'm honest, I'd say I wasn't really. I was just trying to join the dots. And then before you know it, the band splits up, and then you kind of left there going, right, thank God for that.
Mm.
But at the same time, you're thinking, what the fuck have I been doing for the last 2.5 years, 3 years, whatever, however long it was.
Well, that was back in the late 90s. So, when did the Seahorses break up? Was it about 2000, 1999-ish?
1999, yeah.
Yeah.
By that point, I bought a house. Me and my wife back then, we had our son, Marley. So that's all I was kind of interested in, really. But I was very lucky, really, because I was in a position to buy a house and everything. So it was, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have been in that band. It was definitely a life-changing moment. And I do look on some of it, fondly and stuff, but a lot of it was just a slog and just having to get through and trying to please everybody and failing miserably, and it was one of them things, really. But
yeah, does it still irk you a little bit to have to mention John Squire fucking interview?
Not at all. No, I'm really pleased he's doing stuff with Liam.
Yeah,
I can't get that Mars to Liverpool out of my head at all. It's just been going round and round and round. That chorus is mental. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, they're literally everywhere you look at the moment, and it's great. And I'm really pleased for him. I mean, there's sometimes when I was in the studio and John had asked me to sing a bit more like Liam, and I'm always thought, well, if you want Liam, if you want me to sound like Liam, just get Liam, to come in and do it. You are mates with him, so because they were Love Me and Leave Me, I remember, together, and then I had the pleasure of singing that, so that was quite kind of cool.
Yeah,
this was all like,
I remember seeing you live at Party in the Pews last year in a church.
Were you there?
Yeah, I saw you live there. Yeah,
right.
Miles was on, and just a great, just hearing your voice in that magical church, that gig, that was a magical place. And you told a story about that. It's Liam and John's story, didn't you? I believe before.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Liam can remember.
Yeah, that's
it. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. It was strange, just coming into that world, and it's very hard not to be a fanboy about it all, and I had to just basically just put my poker face on and pretend that I wasn't overwhelmed by it all. I had it's quite lucky that I worked in a venue before I joined the Seahorses, so we had a lot of bands going through the venue, and you learn not to be kind of a bit gushy or giddy about things. But if you're meeting famous people all the time, it was just I didn't really know what to do or say. So they probably thought that I was just really either quiet or aloof, or probably drunk, actually, to be honest.
Well, it happens with me as an interview. I'm a massive fan of your work, so I'm holding it in a little bit. I'm trying to keep it, a little bit. I know you can pull the first shot. I know, but you kind of
gush away. Gush away.
You're amazing, mate. You're absolutely fantastic. You've got an amazing body of work behind you. Do you look back at anything in the past around any changes you would have made, or that's it?
No, there's no point. No, my friend I was talking to yesterday, he's another musician, and I've known him a long time.
Yeah,
he was a big inspiration. This guy called Dave Keegan, and he was talking about regrets and stuff, and he's a great songwriter, and he was talking about his regrets, and then he said, "What are yours?" And I was like, "I don't have any." He's like, "You must have some," and I'm like, "No, I don't. It's pointless." I'll probably balls things up, but then as long as you say sorry to the right people and stuff, and know not to do it again, I think it's that's how you get through life, and
Yeah.
you learn, don't you?
Yeah.
But I don't have any regrets about anything.
Yeah. Good. Good. So the Seahorses broke up about 1999. I was just looking on your recording history. Ashes came out in 2008, so that's a bit of a gap. Was that like just family time, that kind of time? You said you bought your house and had a kid, and
Yeah, I was kind of. I think I'd sort of started out with doing a lot of solo projects and things with
mm,
different musicians, and it just got expensive, I think. And then it was like, well, I need to kind of figure out, the family balance with fulfilling my musical dream.
yeah,
And obviously, family comes first. So that would have been probably when I ended up starting. I was working again.
yeah.
But I mean, I was always doing bits and bobs and writing and stuff, and then the Yards kind of formed. So Ashes came out after the Yards. So
Right. Okay. I missed that.
there's I think 2000. It might be two. I can't remember when the first Yards album was out. You'll have to look it up. But
Yeah.
so we had the Yards, and then there was Imperial Measures by the Yards, and then we did a live album,
Hmm.
and then we split up, and then there was Ashes, which was a solo thing, because I was doing a lot of solo gigs at that point. I'd never really gone out and done solo stuff, and busking, and that was mine. So I guess that's when I started to become my own, for lack of a better word, record company, I suppose.
What was there any themes behind all these breakups you've had? You seem to have had a lot of breakup in bands. Was there a particular theme that
re-
through that?
a reason why. I think it's just that thing of you're getting older, as time goes on,
Yeah.
you've got more responsibilities, families and things like that. So, people grow up, they have kids, and if it's not working out, like, for whatever reason, whether it be financial or whatever, and or personal reasons, relationships, whatever, then it's not working, so you split up. I'm really, still really good friends with everybody that was in the Yards.
Yeah.
And I did realize as time went on, though, that I kind of do enjoy being on my own.
Yeah.
It's just less to worry about,
Yeah.
And if it's wrong, it's my fault. And if I'm not on time, it's my fault.
Yeah.
It's you're not having to wait around for the people.
Yeah.
You can travel on. I sound like a great misery, don't I? But I'm just like, you can travel around on trains and watch a film and stuff like that, and not feel guilty because you're not chatting about stuff. It's just like, I'm dreadful to be around when I'm touring. I do love my own space.
Well, you're on tour now. You're on this big acoustic. Is it all acoustic, the tour? I've seen all the dates and things, and I know you've got a gig tonight.
Yeah. So it's weird because I've got obviously quite a big sort of a lot of songs I can pull from at the moment. So my set list, I'll write one out, but very rarely stick to it. People are shouting out, for songs that I haven't played for years, and sometimes I'll just throw them in if I can kind of confidently think I can remember how they go. I'll do it. So yeah, it's quite a nice loose way of doing things, and I do talk a lot in between the songs as well because I get quite nervous. So I do pretend that I'm actually playing in my living room, and everyone in the building is my guest, and that makes me sort of feel like I'm kind of in control of things a bit better.
Yeah.
But I'm really enjoying what I'm doing, and the audiences seem pretty happy with it as well. So I don't think I'm going to be changing that setup anytime soon.
So did it take long to come up with the album name, World of Your Own? You kind of explained that you like being on your own and that kind of stuff, and
That's not really wired. No,
No?
there's more to do with
Yeah.
I got quite ill during COVID, and I'd already written a song called World of My Own anyway, but I was very poorly. I was in a lot of pain. I couldn't move. I was literally bedridden for 2 months, and they thought I had osteoarthritis, but they couldn't check because it was lockdown. So, but I got better, thank God. But I was on a lot of painkillers at the time, and if anyone's ever experienced that, you do feel like you're just in this lovely little warm bubble. And it can be quite a creative experience as well, and doing a lot of thinking, writing a lot of stuff. So I ended up changing quite a few of the lyrics for the song World of My Own, and then it was going to be called Honeycomb.
Mm.
There's a song on the album called Honeycomb, but I think World of My Own seemed to probably make a lot more sense, really. And then the whole sci-fi sort of theme that it's got.
Yeah.
There's an artist called Seasick Sailor, and he's done a lot of stuff for a lot of bands, and he's a great artist, and he's really, really good to work with. And we decided we should maybe go down this kind of sci-fi sort of route, this kind of 1950s, 60s sort of sci-fi route.
Yeah.
And that's because of the title World of My Own. And then inadvertently, it reminded me that the Blinded by the Sun video is set in space as well, because I don't watch that sort of stuff for fun. But it was like, oh yeah, so it's kind of doing this whole full circle thing. And I was going to totally scrap the idea, but then I thought, no, it doesn't matter. We'll just do it differently. But there seems to be these sort of happy coincidences. And then when I put I had the body of work, there's the 11 songs. I said to the John Hargreaves, they basically wrote all the string arrangements and played keyboards and all the other bits and bobs on that kind of thing on the album. I asked him if he could do the segues in between each song, so the whole thing was continuous.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, what kind of vibe do you want? And I showed him the artwork, and he was like, oh, this is an absolute gift. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, I've always wanted to sort of write in this sort of style of like 50s kind of sci-fi stuff. So this is a perfect opportunity to really do that. And then he said, what order do you want the songs in? And I was like, I'll leave that up to you, because you're the one who has to kind of figure it out. And he said, well, do you want to do it in an emotional context, or do you want me to just sort of do it depending on how easy it is from one key to the next? And I was like, well, what do you mean emotionally? And he goes, well, I've listened to the songs, and you are aware that this is quite an honest album that kind of exposes what's been going on in your life for the last 10 years. And I wasn't aware of that, but I left him to it. And he's done that thing. He's just done an amazing thing. So it's definitely bigger than the sum of its parts, really, because of what John's done and what he's added to it. And you can listen to the segues with the segues on. You can listen to it without. But there's also, you can listen to the segues on their own as well, because in their own kind of, even though they're only about maybe at the longest about 30 seconds long, they're beautiful pieces of music, in themselves, in their own right. But I guess it's hard to explain it. Best people better have to listen to it, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I encourage.
It's going to be out on the 29th of March,
yeah.
But you can pre-order it on my website now.
Yeah, just so everybody, anybody watching or listening to this, there's a link in the description of this interview where you can just click straight to it. You don't have to mess about, guys. And I'd encourage anybody to do it. I did want to ask you about the space thing, though. As I've got a bit older, I've started like watching more stuff on space. And just yesterday, a big rocket lifted off. And which could potentially take civilization to Mars. Are you interested in that kind of stuff? It's interesting. Like that kind
I
of.
don't think I could afford it. I think you'd have to be one of these horrific.
Oh no, I don't mean going. I just mean the
hedge funds, kind of 1%ers to go and do that.
Okay.
I'm interested that it's possible and everything, and sci-fi's got a lot to answer for. It's given a lot of people some really good ideas and some absolutely horrendous ones. Look at Black Mirror, for instance. We seem to be living that right now. But yeah, I think it's great. The world is too small for a horrific species like us, so we need to go over to another one and fuck that planet up as well. I am in a sour mood today. I'm so sorry.
I enjoy that kind of stuff. I enjoy that. So you're off out tonight. The tour continues. There's a link in the description to this amazing album that's out on Friday. Is there the first kind of song? It reminded me a little bit of Kill Bill. The beginning of the album, it had like for me. That's the vibe I was getting from it. Anyway, a little bit noir, a little bit vintage, Kill Billy kind of. I've just made some general notes when I was listening to it in gym this week. That's the kind of.
Yeah, well, that's kind of from the spaghetti western sort of stuff,
right?
So it's like hence the Calexico kind of influence. But yeah, this. I don't know if it actually does that at any other point in the album.
Yeah.
but yeah, it's well, it is what it is. But I guess people are just going to have to have all
It's
this
massive. It really like. Do you know when when you listen to a new piece of music and you think, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass, when you listen to a new piece of music and you're like, nice, I found another thing I can fucking get right involved with. You know what I mean? It don't.
Oh, good. Well, that's very kind of you.
I listen to a lot of music and it doesn't happen very often. And that happened with me when the album come on. I'm like, fuck yes, I've got another favorite thing that I can just hammer and listen to and just enjoy.
Oh, that's really kind. When we were recording it and writing it and stuff, we don't really think about those sort of things.
Yeah.
We just want to get it done and finished and not be crap.
Yeah.
So it's really lovely. I was naively, and I should know better, but really stupidly surprised and shocked, really, that once people had heard it and it was released, the single was released, and the really lovely comments about it, and and I forgot that that's what happens.
Yeah.
I was expecting this terrific wave of kind of criticism, but that's not come yet. So I'm probably tempting fate there, but can't please everyone. But at the same time, I'm really pleased that it's gone down well, and that you like it, because you obviously know what you're on.
I
about
love it,
music,
and I've just ordered the vinyl as well, so you can. I've just ordered my version of the vinyl as well, because I was listening to it just on a Google link, so I got like a secret listen before today, but I want it on vinyl. I just think I'm just going to sit down and enjoy it even more on vinyl. I think.
Well, the vinyl's a whole different experience, because it's just one continuous thing.
Mm.
Goes right through. It's all. In today's kind of playlisty Spotify world, people don't really listen to albums from what start to finish. So there's just one song on a playlist, I guess, and where this is kind of old school, it's more of it's not like a prog record or anything like that. It's not like a concept album. If there is a concept, the concept is there wasn't a concept. But it kind of comes across as that inadvertently. So yeah, it's quite a journey. I think that's what a lot of people have said when they've heard it, and it's that's the kind of exactly what I think I wanted to do, really.
You seem quite relaxed coming up to the week of a new album coming out, mate. Are you looking forward to it?
Relaxed or knackered?
Okay,
which one
fair enough.
Maybe this is me putting the shutters back on again.
Right. Okay.
It's like hide.
Right.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, I'm just glad that it's all coming out, and I've got my mate Brad Blackwell, who's been helping me release it, and without him it wouldn't have happened. I'm dreadfully disorganized. I'm a massive procrastinator. And he's kind of like just cleared the path for it all to happen, so I can't thank him enough. Been working with Press on Vinyl as well, who have been fantastic. They're the pressing plant.
Oh yeah, I saw you on Twitter earlier this week, all smiley with your vinyl in your hand.
They're a relatively new kind of thing. They've been going for a couple of years now, but they're brilliant people. The enthusiasm is just off the scale, and I think everyone who works there love what they love what they do, and they do it with a real passion, and it's great to see. So I'm glad that we decided to go with them. Yeah, I mean, it's nice. I've just met so many nice people over this whole process and stuff, and it's like yourself as well. So thanks again. Thanks for your kind words, Mister.
Well, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Well, I know you've got to rush off. You're getting a train to your gig tonight, Chris. I really appreciate your time, mate. And if anybody's not pressed the link on the pre-link for the album yet, just press it. Stop over and over it. Treat yourself. You won't be disappointed. And enjoy the gig tonight, mate, and the rest of the tour. And keep doing Chris Helme stuff. It's great. Nice one.
I'll try. I don't think anyone else could do it. Thanks again, mate. Cheers, Carl.
Well, thanks again.